I promise you this will make sense.
Liar!
Loki Season 2, Episode 5. Last time, the temporal loom exploded and obliterated the multiverse, so it's quite confusing when the episode begins with Loki still alive. He started time-slipping again. Why? No idea. The show still hasn't explained what caused it to happen. And not only is that left unanswered, now the ability has evolved for no reason. He now slips through both time and space, while unconsciously navigating to his companions. And by the episode's end, the ability totally changes. Again. Now he can control it, and his time-slipping suddenly doesn't transport his body. It now seems to transport his mind into his past self.
I made it back!
Why is this the case?
I don't know.
It's like the show's trying to make as little sense as possible.
You time travel in a place that has no time.
Be quiet! Shut up!
Time-slipping is a cheat the writers use to push the story forward. Without this convenient ability showing up out of nowhere, and without its arbitrarily changing rules, the show abruptly ends. So Loki time-slips across the multiverse. But how is the multiverse still here? The loom exploded. So shouldn't there be just nothingness? Maybe the crisis was averted somehow. After the blast, Loki is suddenly alone. The loom looks fine and this message plays. So perhaps the explosion never happened. Except it's made clear that's not the case. The loom did explode. To make matters more complicated, the multiverse does start to disintegrate, but only towards the end of the episode. What's with the delay? And to make matters more complicated, Loki uses time travel to go to a point before the disintegration reaches him within a branch timeline, even though this obliteration is happening independent of the flow of time within said branch.
This is where it gets complicated.
Imagine, if you will, you're driving the length of a bridge, and the road starts collapsing behind you until eventually catching up. You can't just turn around and drive the other direction to reverse the collapsing of the bridge. Now replace bridge with a branch timeline, driving with the flow of time, and collapse with a loom explosion. Understand?
Get it, got it, doubt it.
Basically, the show has broken the MCU. Again. The loom went boom, but the multiverse is still here, until it eventually starts to fade away in a manner that contradicts established rules. How does the show deal with this cavalcade of nonsense? Why, lampshading, of course.
You time travel in a place that has no time, right? That's not possible. So you traveling to a place that doesn't exist anymore is equally impossible. Therefore, it's something you might be able to do.
The show deliberately calls attention to how nothing makes sense, as if that excuses it. I'm sorry, no matter how tongue-in-cheek the writers are, this is still lazy and pitiful writing. So Loki slips across the multiverse to his companions. For some reason, they've been reset back to their branches. As you can imagine, there are multiple major issues with this. First off, how does the destruction of the multiverse lead to these individual people being sent back to their original timelines? Is it because of the TVA failsafe? But why would it do that? Kinda pointless when the multiverse has exploded. Second off, their branches don't exist anymore. They were all pruned eons ago. Third off, why is everyone reset except Loki? If this process somehow respawns dead branches, why didn't the same happen to his? Fourth off, why were all their memories wiped except Sylvie's? She remembers everything, so as to conveniently have a heart-to-heart with Loki. Fifth off, why was Sylvie sent to the McDonald's timeline rather than the one she came from like everyone else? Sixth off, why did Loki assume these people were literally his friends rather than variants of them? That's a wild assumption to make based on literally nothing. Again, all of this serves to make the story progress more conveniently, because the writers are hacks. Loki reunites with OB. In this timeline, he's a theoretical physicist, so he's able to help him devise a plan to save the multiverse. Which is dumb. The writers seem convinced that if you're a genius, regardless of what time period you're from, you're capable of understanding TVA-level science. That's retarded. And OB makes a bunch of absurd assumptions about how time travel works, even though he couldn't possibly know. He concludes they can prevent the loom's explosion by gathering everyone that was there and reading their collective temporal aura, like coordinates, so Loki can get back there.
Every one of your friends has a temporal aura. That means a group of people would have a collective aura unique to that moment in time.
This is the first we've heard of temporal aura being unique to a time and place. If that's the case, Timely shouldn't have been able to unlock the blast doors. Also, gathering everyone now wouldn't work, since this is a different time and place. They would have had to read their collective aura back before the loom exploded. On top of these issues, they never even get the chance to execute this plan, making this whole ordeal pointless to begin with. Loki time slips again, encountering Mobius. And like episode 1, the show relies heavily on the relationship established in the first season to pull on the audience's heartstrings. But in season 1, Loki was a prisoner, working for Mobius under threat of death. He endured insults and torture from the man the whole season, until at the end they were suddenly besties. The show knows this is a friendship built on a non-existent foundation, so it tries to work around it by retconning events from season 1.
You saved my life when I first arrived. You saw something in me that I hadn't seen in myself.
Why are you in there sticking your neck out for me?
I'll give you two options. A, because I see a scared little boy, and you kind of feel bad for that ice runt. Or B, I just want to catch this guy, and I'll tell you whatever I need to tell you.
Mobius manipulated and broke down Loki to make him docile and cooperative. He only saved him to use him. That's not to say a genuine friendship couldn't have developed from Mobius's ulterior motives, but the show didn't do that. OB invents a tempad, and Loki uses it to gather almost everyone.
There's one more.
No, there's two more. Sylvie and Timely. The episode kind of forgets about Timely, even though he should be crucial to their plan. And we come, once more, to Sylvie. Last episode, I genuinely believed that she couldn't get any worse, but I was horribly, horribly mistaken. In this episode, she's absolutely awful and despicable. This is the angriest I've ever been watching this show. When Loki portals to Sylvie, he's surprised that she has all her memories. This brings into question what Sylvie's been doing this whole time. Rather than work to save the multiverse, she's been sitting on her ass. Despite all their deaths being imminent, she's happy now because everyone has gotten their lives back on the respective timelines.
And they're finally back in their real lives. That's a good thing.
Loki argues they were never given the choice to return to their timelines. It was something forced on them.
You would be ripping people from their lives, showing them something that they cannot unsee. What kind of choice is that?
But they...
You hypocritical bitch. Suddenly, Sylvie doesn't give a shit about choice or free will. What she wanted all along was everyone returned to where they should be, as dictated by her. Loki rightfully calls her out on this.
You don't care? I guess this all worked out just the way you wanted it to, and you're fine just walking away. It's so selfish.
Of course I'm selfish. I want a life. What's wrong with wanting something, Loki?
Sylvie justifies toying with people's lives and stripping away their agency for the sake of her own happiness. Wasn't it just last episode she was comparing Loki to Kang? Seems like she's a hell of a lot closer. Sylvie then does her damnedest to gaslight Loki, to convince him that he doesn't actually want to save the multiverse.
What do you want?
I want to stop He Who Remains.
No, wrong. Try again. What is it that you really want?
I want to save everything. All of it.
Is it really that hard? Come on, keep trying.
I want to save the TVA.
Why?
I want my friends back. I don't want to be alone.
Loki has always longed for power and glorious purpose. We're meant to believe that thanks to last season, his goals have shifted. Now he wants friends and a place to belong. That's not too far removed from the journey he went on in the MCU proper. Except in this case, it was horribly rushed with botched execution. And I'd like to remind everyone that this episode has cheated to get this payoff in the first place. Everyone has returned to their home timelines except for Loki. He was left behind because otherwise the episode couldn't argue that Loki has no home other than the TVA, and no companions other than Mobius and the others. What does Sylvie say in response?
See? We're both selfish.
Oh my god, shut up, a million times shut up, I'm going to kill you, shut up.
These are not equivalent. Loki wants to save his friends from obliteration. Sylvie wants to let everyone die so she doesn't have to give up her perfect life. It's the difference between protecting someone because you love them and killing someone to protect yourself.
I know this is hard, but your friends are back where they belong.
But without them, where do I belong?
Sylvie successfully gaslights Loki and turns the situation around on him, as if he's the one in the wrong and in need of self-reflection. Sylvie is content to let the multiverse be obliterated, until her own timeline is affected. Then she immediately portals to Loki and says they gotta do something about this.
The caucasity of this bitch.
She finally realizes something about the multiverse.
I'm one of the idiots who lives in it!
But it's too late. In a Walmart bargain bin version of Infinity War, everyone starts to disappear. It's then that Loki figures out how to control his time slipping.
It's not about where, when, or why. It's about who.
I really don't know what this means. I would say that I hope next episode clears this up, but there's a million things it needs to clear up to salvage this train wreck of a show. Loki successfully time slips back to before the loom exploded, and the episode ends. Here's a thought. If Loki prevents the loom from exploding this time, doesn't this create a branching timeline? So rather than save the multiverse, it creates a new identical one. I know they've stated that the TVA has no time, but that's obviously wrong. It has a past, present, and future. Therefore, it must follow the same time travel rules as everywhere else. Although I doubt the writers have taken even a second to think this through. Sylvie continues to reach new depths of awful. And the sad part is, I can't confidently say whether the show definitively thinks she's wrong. Her entire conversation with Loki is framed as if she's the one in the right, and it's Loki that needs to learn from her. She does finally admit that the TVA is needed to stop the multiverse's destruction, but she doesn't take back any of the other brain-dead things she said. And the fact that she was ever okay with letting trillions upon trillions of people die is just baffling. Isn't her whole character about giving people their lives back? The show has unwittingly retconned this. Now, everything she's done so far has been entirely for personal gain. She never gave a damn about anyone but herself. The time travel in this show has always been broken, but that goes doubly so for this episode. As I suspected, the show has had to pull all kinds of shit out of its ass to undo last episode's ending. I have to ask, if the writers could never competently write themselves out of this corner, why did they put themselves there to begin with? The show continues to careen downhill. I can only imagine the finale is the fiery wreckage of its inevitable crash. Thanks for watching. If you like this video, like this video. Till next time.